evening, everyone, and welcome. It's lovely to see so many people in the room, and Community Services and Culture will be working with many of the groups in the room, and so we're really looking forward to building that relationship. Tonight I wanted to give a snapshot of the Inner West community as a launching pad for your further discussion. As John and Darcy have said, we regard as very important the way that we engage with you, and part of our commitment is to bring to you quality advice, quality information, a strong evidence base, and research and analysis that can give you a good launching pad for the discussions and the conversations that we will have. As well as our interaction with yourselves and our participation with the community, we call upon the Council's evidence base, and tonight I'll be painting a word picture of the Inner West community. So strap yourselves in for the ride, statistics by big picture, and I want to make a comment about population data. It's a resource, not a recipe. I'm in no way describing individuals, but I'm hoping to give an image of some of those characteristics about the Inner West community that will be a great resource as we ask, are we doing the right things? Are we doing them effectively for our community? Are we properly assessing the needs of our current and future community members? We are a population of 197,000 people in the Inner West, slightly more female than male, 51.3% female. We're going to be growing, that's no surprise. In 20 years, we'll increase by around 30,000 community members. Picture Leichhardt Oval, capacity of 20,000 people. Fill it once again, or fill it half, so that gives you 30,000 people if you want a visual image of the growth in the Inner West community over the period to 2036. Our age groups are fairly typical of our neighbouring inner city communities. The median age is 35. However, overall the Australian population is living longer, and over time there will be more people living longer, and so more people in the senior age groups. Our community has overall rich resources to support them, both as a local council, however also individually. But it's important to understand that while our community does support well-resourced households, there are pockets of high need and disadvantage. 13.3% of our households live on earnings less than $500 a week. Now that's a real challenge, and I'm sure you're immediately thinking of them yourself in terms of housing, in terms of transport, in terms of quite a number of the challenges of living a daily life. So again, this is not a description of a person, but how do we live in our households? And I think what's remarkable, a key characteristic of the Inner West, is that we have a larger proportion of single-person households than the rest of Sydney. Do you want to take a guess? 25% of households in the Inner West are single-person households. Now just bear that in mind and maybe scan your neighbours and your friends, or just, again, bring that to your awareness as you're reflecting on the Inner West community. As so eloquently introduced by Annie Deb Lenners, we have the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples of the Inner West, the traditional custodians of the land, continue to reflect the diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture nationally. The Gadigal and Mongol peoples of the Eora are the custodians, and Deb has introduced us tonight to one of 29 languages across the Greater Sydney region. It's important to bear that diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander languages in mind as we think about the diversity of languages across the Inner West. The Inner West has a long history of cultural diversity. We are one of the most diverse and most actively engaged multicultural communities in the country. In 2016, over a third of our population in the Inner West was born overseas. The largest non-English speaking country of birth was China, followed by Italy, Vietnam, Greece, Nepal and India. So you can see that there's no surprises then in the diversity of languages spoken in people's homes other than English. So again, it's Mandarin, Greek, Italian, Vietnamese, Cantonese and Spanish. The Inner West community takes pride in being a diverse and engaged, and in fact, across Sydney is regarded as the home of LGBTIQ community building and activism. The Inner West is defined by our strong lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, intersex and queer community, and while our data on this, the data on this is not of the same order in terms of census data or statistical data, what the Inner West does have is an incredibly vital community, and Council draws on that expertise as we shape together the current and future Inner West community. A key platform for Council is social inclusion and access. 4.5% of our community requires assistance to live on a daily basis, to live and get through the day. It's very similar to the proportion across Greater Sydney and the wider population. And of course there's a much wider group of people who have various levels of ability and require various levels of support. But as I've said, and as others have said, this is not just about a single aspect of any human being. So we have great diversity in terms of the skills and capabilities. One of the ways that the Australian Bureau of Statistics measures that is looking at educational qualifications. And overall, the Inner West is a highly educated community. Over 60% of the population has educational qualifications. And you can really see in the Inner West how Australia has changed since the Great Migration surges post-Second World War. So our older residents tend to be the residents with lower or fewer educational qualifications, which is very reflective of the time they lived in. It was very unusual in that time for people to finish high school or go on to tertiary education. And so again, the Inner West is changing in keeping with the wider social policy of the nation. Our local economy is a key and flourishing economy across quite a range of spectrums. Over 113,000 local residents are employed, and there's around 73 local jobs, so that's jobs in businesses locally. The largest of the local industries is the healthcare and social assistance. But interestingly, if we delve behind the detail, it's so important to do this in research. If we take that next layer of the detail, if cultural and creative industries were identified as a specific industry sector, the Inner West supports 4.3% of cultural and creative jobs across the whole of Inner Sydney, and it generates close to 4% of all creative output. So that in total would be over $660 million in value add and the creation of 6,400 local jobs. There's over 13,000 employed residents in cultural and creative industries in the Inner West. Now I'm just going to stop the stats and the numbers there because I want to bring us back to our starting premise. Local government is responsible for planning and delivering facilities and services for our residents and the wider public, for our current population and for future generations. I'm not drawing conclusions about the data I've presented, but I do invite you to investigate that further and to bear it in mind and consider it as a resource as you contribute and engage to this great collaboration of planning for the Inner West and working with the Inner West, delivering the Inner West vision as we go forward. For your interest, and I know there's statisticians in the room, all of our data is drawn from the ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and there's a wonderful resource on the Council website, the Profile ID website, which is available to everyone. Again, data is a resource, it's not a recipe. So I invite you to use it, regard it as a great resource as you contribute, debate, challenge and imagine our way into the future. And we're very much looking forward to working with you on that project as we go forward. Thank you.